Welcome, Sundry readers! I hope you enjoy today's story. Please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Happy listening! New Faces, New Friends by Arleta Richardson. Chapter 11, Hudson Again. The week before school started, Mary Webster and her mother moved into Rebecca's house. Len was helping his father get the last of the hay in, so Sarah Jane went with me to call on them. "You must have thought I'd never even been to school, let alone taught one," she laughed when we were settled in the parlor. "I knew I wasn't making a good impression, but I'll tell you the truth. I was frightened to death." "So was I when I was interviewed," Sarah Jane said. "I practically gibbered when the board asked me what my qualifications were. The only thing I could think of offhand was that I knew my multiplication tables and could tie my own shoes." "I was afraid I was too old to find another job," Mary said. "I didn't know how I'd take care of my mother. We didn't even have a place to live because the school owned the little house we stayed in. I don't know what I've done if Mr. Williams hadn't taken a chance on me." "From what I've heard, he's not taking much of a chance," I said. "I think you're just what North Branch needs." "Thank you, Mabel. I appreciate that. I won't have to worry about Ma during the day either. She and Mrs. Handy are having a good time visiting. Ma sits in the kitchen with her and peels vegetables. It's such a relief to know that she'll be looked after." "You'll find the parents here friendly and helpful," I said. "There are a few families that I'm not acquainted with, but most of these children have been in school since the primer class." "We'll be happy to have you come to church and bring your mother, too," Sarah Jane said. "Rebecca and Colleen attend. I guess you know that we're meeting in the schoolhouse until our new church is ready." "Yes, Mr. Williams told me. We'll be happy to worship with you folks. I'll have to say that this is the friendliest area I've ever lived in. Reverend Curtis came by the day we moved in and asked us to visit his church. He even offered to come and get us since we have no buggy. I said I thought we should stay here where the school families are. Ma said he came again yesterday while I was in town." "Do you think Hudson is seeking new members for his flock or checking out the possibilities for a wife?" Sarah Jane wondered as we rode home. "What do you think?" I said. "She's already told him she's going to church here. I wish his conference would send him to an outlying parish. He's exhausted everybody's patience in this one." The weather held out well for building activities, and the church began to take shape. Augusta's barn had been replaced and the houses repaired with the help of every man who could wield a hammer. Now Hiram and George Eliot were working full-time on the church. The frame building was going to be faced with stone. If all went according to plan, we would be worshiping there by the end of the year. Len helped as much as his time permitted, and I had a report on the progress every evening. "Hudson Curtis stopped by today to see how the work was coming," Len reported. "He apologized to me for the trouble he caused. He hoped I wouldn't hold it against him." "He doesn't know you very well if he thinks you'd hold a grudge," I said. "He's fortunate that it wasn't some other husband in town he had to apologize to. What did you say to him?" "I told him I thought he had used poor judgment, but I didn't suspect him of being malicious. He did clear things up with his father, and I gather from what Hudson said that Mr. Curtis wasn't as lenient with him as I was. He even suggested that we had grounds for taking Hudson to court." "That's true," I said. "And don't think it didn't occur to me. I hope Hudson was grateful that we chose not to." "He was. He wanted to know what he could do to make it up to us." "Staying home would be a good start," I suggested. When school opened the second week of September, that's exactly what I did. Stayed at home. "I can hardly remember school beginning without my being there," I said to Sarah Jane. "Most people start their new year on January 1st, but I've always started mine on the first day of school. I didn't realize how hard it would be to think of someone else in charge. Doesn't it bother you?" "Not at all," she responded cheerfully. "I'm of the opinion that for every one person who wants to teach, there are 30 people who don't want to learn." I'd rather spend my time talking to someone who at least looks as though he's hearing me.
Oh, Sarah Jane, you were a great teacher. You've always had more imagination and good ideas than I've had. Of course, some of them almost prevented us from growing up, but they certainly helped your teaching.
I'll need all I have left to raise my children, she said. I have a suspicion that we don't know what we're in for. It looked easy when our folks were in charge, but can you imagine us coping with a couple like we were?
It's a sobering thought, all right,
I agreed.
It's like taking a job that you learn while you're doing it.
A few weeks later, Sarah Jane and I were at her house sewing.
Why are these last 2 months going so slowly?
I moaned.
I'm ready for the 1st of December to be here right now.
Don't wish your life away, she advised me. That baby is easier to take care of right now than it will ever be again.
That's what Ma says. She thinks I should do all the reading I want to do for the next year while I'm sitting around with my feet up. She makes it sound as though I won't have time to do anything but look after a baby. I'm certainly better organized than that.
That remains to be seen, Sarah Jane responded. You can't chuck up a real baby on the shelf when you're tired of playing with it or have something better to do.
My, I'm certainly glad to have you around to direct this important part of my life, I retorted. I'd never make it through without you.
I'd never make it through without you either, Mabel, Sarah Jane said seriously, and we both know it.
We do,
I nodded.
A lifetime habit is hard to break. The closest we ever came to blows was over Mary Etta Rose Amanda Morgan. Remember her?
How could I forget? Sarah Jane laughed. She was a red-headed tempest if I ever saw one. I wonder what became of her. As we reminisced about our childhood, a thought occurred to me.
You know something? Right now is the future we wondered about back then. 20 years from now, we'll be looking at today as the past. Don't you have a hard time comprehending that?
Yes, but what is even harder to realize is that God knows exactly what is going to happen on every one of those days. The Bible says all the days ordained for me were written in your books before one of them even came to be. I can't even begin to understand that.
Neither can I said, but I'm glad it's true.
Colleen and Lorenzo came to see us one evening, bringing happy news. We're planning to be married in June, Colleen announced. I hope Becky can wait that long. Ever since she found out we were thinking about it, she's been anxious to announce it. You'd think it was to be her wedding.
I know, I told her. Becky had things all worked out for you before the storm came. I'm delighted for both of you.
Lorenzo beamed and signed a message to Colleen. He wants to know if we will be the first ones to be married in the new church, she interpreted. We would like that. I think you will, Len assured them. I haven't heard of any other plans. We certainly don't want you to go over to Hudson's church for the ceremony. I laughed along with the others, but the mention of Hudson Curtis still didn't cause me much amusement. I was disappointed that the conference had decided to give him more time in his search for a wife. But Len's kind heart had nothing but sympathy for the man in spite of all Hudson's poor judgment. Since the subject had come up, I decided to ask Colleen a question that had been bothering me for some time.
Has Hudson continued to call on Mary Webster? I know he was there twice the week Mary and her mother moved in.
Colleen's laughter pealed out and Lorenzo grinned.
That lady is a master teacher, diplomat, and comedian, she said. I wish you could have been there. We were all in the parlor the evening he called, and Becky and the rest of us got up to leave.
Oh, please stay,
Mary said.
We'll all have a nice time visiting together.
She knew he wanted to see her alone, and she wasn't about to give him a chance.
I was quite surprised to learn that you are the pastor of a church, Reverend Curtis, she said. You don't look to be more than 20 years old.
Poor Hudson looked flustered and said,
26, ma'am.
26, she said.
Imagine that. You could have been one of my first students. I've been teaching for 20 years now, you know. What you need is a nice young lady to be a helpmeet to you, and I'm sure the Lord will show you just the right one. Ma and I appreciate your invitation to attend your church, and any time you are in the area and you want to call, we'll be glad to see you. Won't we, Ma? Well now, haven't we had a pleasant evening? I'm sure you have other calls to make, so we'll not keep you, but thank you for coming by. Hudson was on his feet and out the door before he realized what had happened to him, Colleen said. Mary accompanied him to the porch, then she returned and sat down. Well, that was a nice call, she said placidly.
The boy only said 3 words, her mother commented. Who was making the call, you or him?
Why, he did, of course, Ma. It was probably one of the most enlightening visits he's ever made. He now knows we'll not be attending his church, and unless he wants to be tutored for 8th grade examinations, he and I have nothing to discuss. Now, what were we talking about before we were interrupted? I'm sure Hudson must be thinking that one over even yet, Colleen concluded. I've never seen a smoother dismissal. Poor old Hudson, Sarah Jane laughed when she heard the story. He needs to go to the big city to do his shopping. Eligible girls are not greatly inclined towards a town this size.
I know. Even Colleen wouldn't have gotten off here if she hadn't seen that load of logs on the sidetrack. I believe Mary is right, though. The Lord does have a wife that Hudson needs, somewhere. I just pray that Hudson finds her before all the rest of us go out of our minds.
End of chapter 11.